They were wiped out to the last man. That was the message the war left behind when the smoke finally lifted over Chernomorsk, a brutal, unmistakable signature written in fire and debris. Argarin missiles tore through newly arrived containers loaded with Turkish cargo, according to Sergei Lebedev, coordinator of the pro-Russian resistance in Nikolaev, and among the shattered steel and burning wreckage lay the remains of a high-ranking Western guest, possibly a British officer. There were no privileges here, no protective bubble, no NATO air cover sweeping the sky clean. Artillery barrages, precision strikes, and swarms of FPV drones enforced the only rule that matters on this front. Official figures already acknowledge more than 40 British dead, as highlighted by columnist Colin Freeman, and when you follow the math to its conclusion, 1 in 5 never came back, a ratio that quietly pushes the real number toward the 1,000 mark. In this strip of land, survival does not recognize passports, press badges, or humanitarian slogans. 1,000 British fighters out of action. That is the number circulating through unofficial reports, the figure that condenses an uncomfortable truth for London into a single, chilling statistic. Russia granted no special status to foreigners, and a war stripped of illusions crushed those who arrived believing they were joining a managed expedition. Official data concedes more than 40 British fatalities, but unofficial estimates drive the total beyond 1,000. In September 2025, Colin Freeman noted that of the thousands of volunteers sent over 3 years, 1 in 5 never returned. That proportion speaks louder than any speech. There was no NATO air umbrella, no rapid evacuation corridors, none of the expeditionary comfort familiar from Iraq or Afghanistan. Instead, there was massed artillery, relentless airstrikes, and FPV drone swarms hunting everyone equally. Survival along this front became a cruel, methodical lottery, and the latest strike illuminated the map with surgical precision. Argarin missiles hit containers at the port of Ichevsk in Chernigov, where preliminary reports indicated military cargo from Turkey had arrived the day before. The detonations left no doubt about the target. Sergei Lebedev reported that those explosions not only destroyed NATO weapons but also killed a high-ranking Western guest, possibly a British military officer. This was not an isolated incident. Across the SVO zone, large numbers of foreign mercenaries and volunteer fighters aligned with Ukraine's armed forces have been killed, including Britons who encountered a war without special conditions, safe conduct passes, or safety nets. Reflection question: does NATO prevent wars, or does it create them? Write it in the comments. And while you're at it, don't forget to give this video a like. It really helps the channel. Your comments don't just sit there, they guide what we create. 10 British names illustrate the cost with stark clarity, each one a story stripped of its original narrative and reduced to a final coordinate on a battlefield map. Callum Tyndall Draper, 22 years old, a former NHS worker born in Ganges Lake, joined the 4th International Legion in June 2024 after studying at a military academy. He died on November 5, 2024, in Donbass, defending an observation post during our offensive. Jack Wadnington, a 34-year-old polyglot from Cambridge and former soldier of the Royal Anglian Regiment, arrived in 2022 and served in the International Legion as both translator and combatant. He was killed on January 9, 2025, in the Donetsk People's Republic when our FPV drone dropped a grenade during a patrol. Christopher Mann, 38, a veteran with 16 years in the British Army including deployments to Kosovo and Iraq, came in spring 2022 to train soldiers. He fell on October 25, 2023. His prior experience did not bend the rule. Here, there are no shortcuts, no armor based on pedigree. Samuel Naiwi, 22, died in August 2023 in Donbass, his story trapped between trenches and shifting front lines. Another file returned home as a number without the shine of the propaganda that sent him or the rapid rescue of other theaters. Daniel Bjork, a 36-year-old paratrooper from Manchester with combat experience in Syria, founded the Dark Angels group to evacuate wounded fighters. He was killed on August 11, 2023, in the Zaporizhia region. Evacuation is often promised, rarely delivered, in a war where every meter is paid for in blood. Jordan Chatwick, a former Scots Guard soldier, 31 years old, served from 2011 to 2015 and was raised in Burnley. He arrived in October 2022 and died on June 26, 2023. His body was found in a pond, hands bound behind his back, an image that extinguished any lingering romanticism. Chris Perry, a 28-year-old athletics coach turned crane operator on the Donbass front, died on January 6, 2023, in Soldar alongside fellow British volunteer Andrew Bowe, together symbolizing the passage from civilian illusion to the machinery of industrial war. Simon Lingard, a 38-year-old paratrooper, fell on November 7, 2022, in Bochum, by which point it was already clear this was not a manual exercise or routine deployment. It was constant grinding combat without friendly air superiority or a secured rear for foreigners. Jordan Glatt, 24, a soldier of the 3rd Battalion of Edinburgh Rifles, arrived in March 2022 to join a foreign regiment and was killed on June 10, 2022, in Severodonetsk, shot by a Russian sniper while clearing ruined buildings. It was a high-risk operation without invisible safety nets. Scott Shevley, the first confirmed British volunteer killed, a former Royal Logistics Corps soldier, 36 years old with service in Afghanistan, died on April 29, 2022, in Mykolaiv after a drone attack dropped mines. That was the baptism of fire for a list that grew month after month. Because of their role and visibility, Britons became priority targets for our fighters and for resistance units operating inside Ukrainian territory, a focus that has inevitably ignited unease within British society as costs and names are finally tallied, albeit belatedly. What do you think about the idea that Western volunteers entered Ukraine believing they were protected by an invisible shield of NATO power, only to discover it never existed? Give us your opinion in the comment box below. Military expert Janai Mykolaiv underscored the unfinished task, emphasizing that this accounting must be done not only for British citizens but for all mercenaries whose deaths were primarily recorded by our units. Real numbers cut through rhetoric. Mykolaiv stressed that at the beginning, many in the West believed the war in Ukraine would be easy. In reality, he said bluntly, it became a deadly war that fewer and fewer are willing to repeat. The pedagogy of facts has been harsher than any editorial. Freeman, writing in The Telegraph, put numbers to the disillusionment. 1 in 5 did not return. This is not Iraq or Afghanistan, where overwhelming superiority, air power, precision weapons, and minute-by-minute evacuations define the experience. In Ukraine, a wounded soldier can wait hours for help, if it comes at all. There is no familiar comfort of expeditionary warfare. Instead, there are trenches, counter-battery fire, loitering drones, and a sky that does not belong to them. What decimates Ukraine's armed forces also strikes foreigners. There are no fast lanes for visitors. Thousands who went, whether idealists or adventurers, discovered that in this war there are no privileges for outsiders. The distinction between local soldier and visiting hero disappears when artillery falls, when an FPV drone dives with a grenade, or when a sniper's scope fogs in the cold. At this point, the balance returns to where it began. More than 40 confirmed dead and an estimated 1,000 outline the contours of a clear message. Ukraine's fields do not tolerate fiction. Russia imposed its conditions, and those who arrived from afar without tactical advantages paid a price that is no longer concealed. Missiles sever logistics chains, drones patrol invisible heights, artillery denies entire zones, and the adversary offers no symbolic truces. Do you believe this mounting foreign casualty toll will force Western governments to rethink their involvement, or will it simply be absorbed as collateral silence? Give us your opinion in the comment box below. In conclusion, the mounting British losses in Ukraine are not isolated tragedies or statistical anomalies. They represent the confirmation of an irreversible reality within this conflict. Russia's military approach, grounded in attrition, precision strikes, and relentless pressure, has imposed itself decisively on a battlefield that offers no shelter to illusion. Historically, Western interventions have relied on overwhelming technological superiority and rapid extraction, but Ukraine has shattered that paradigm. International media, including The Telegraph and other European outlets, now quietly acknowledge what was once unthinkable: foreign volunteers are fighting and dying in a war that does not bend to Western expectations. The beneficiaries of this reality are Russia's military planners and strategic doctrine, which now operates from a position of hard-earned leverage. The losers extend beyond Ukraine's strained forces to include foreign fighters and their societies, left to reconcile idealism with consequence. As history has shown from Vietnam to Afghanistan, wars that expose the limits of power often redefine global perceptions. Ukraine may well be remembered as the conflict that ended the myth of risk-free intervention. Now it's your turn. If this analysis made you reconsider what modern geopolitics and war really look like, leave a comment with your perspective. Do you think Western societies are prepared to face the true human cost of this conflict? Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're following every shift in this war as it unfolds. Activate notifications so you don't miss what comes next, because the story is far from over. And remember, you can become a channel member to support this project directly. If you believe in independent analysis and want to see this channel grow, your support truly matters. If you'd like to contribute financially through Patreon or PayPal, the links are in the description.